In the heart of the Kavango wilderness, a vast and untamed land in Namibia, two lions, a powerful male named Tao and his resilient mate Mara, roamed freely. For years they had ruled their territory, hunting together beneath the golden sunsets. But the land was changing. Water sources dried up, prey became scarce, and survival grew harder with each passing day. Faced with an uncertain future, they made a bold decision: to leave their home in search of a safer land. Across hundreds of kilometers, they traveled, enduring hunger, exhaustion, and dangerous encounters with rival predators. Each night, Tao stood guard, his golden mane catching the moonlight, while Mara rested, regaining her strength for the long journey ahead. After weeks of hardship, their instincts led them to Okavango National Reserve, a land teeming with life. But what they found there was unlike anything they had ever encountered before. Stay with me to discover what happened next. After weeks of relentless travel, Tao and Mara finally reached the Okavango National Reserve, a vast, thriving land where the scent of fresh water and abundant prey filled the air. Their weary bodies longed for rest, but their instincts kept them alert. This place was unfamiliar, unlike any territory they had ever known. The land was dotted with strange structures, fences, and the scent of humans, a presence neither had encountered so closely before. As night fell, Tao let out a deep roar, his voice echoing across the plains, a signal to all that he had arrived. But this land was not unclaimed. Other lions were out there, hidden in the tall grass, and Tao knew he would have to fight for his place. Meanwhile, Mara paced restlessly, still unsettled in this foreign environment. She sniffed the air cautiously, sensing something unusual, watchful eyes tracking their every move. From a distance, two human figures observed them closely: Jabari, an experienced patrol ranger, and Amara, a skilled wildlife researcher, had been following the fresh lion tracks along the riverbank. Their discovery sent a ripple of excitement and concern through the reserve. A new lion pair meant both opportunity and danger. Were these lions seeking refuge, or would they disrupt the delicate balance of Okavango? For days, Jabari and Amara monitored the lions, carefully noting their movements, hunting patterns, and interactions. They noticed something peculiar. Mara was moving slower than usual, her body language guarded. Amara watched closely and turned to Jabari with a realization that sent a thrill through her. Mara was pregnant. A new life was about to be born in Okavango, but the journey was far from over. What challenges awaited them? The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the Okavango sky in fiery streaks of gold and crimson. Beneath the vast open sky, Mara moved cautiously, her swollen belly slowing her down as she followed Tao's protective steps. Each day, her movements became more labored, her breaths heavier. She was nearing the most dangerous moment of her life, giving birth in the wild. Jabari and Amara watched from a distance, their concern growing with each passing day. Mara was weak, and if something went wrong, neither they nor Tao could intervene fast enough. In the untamed wilderness, a vulnerable lioness in labor was an easy target for hyenas, leopards, or even rival lions seeking to eliminate future competition. Then, one fateful night, Mara collapsed under the silver moonlight. Her body trembled as waves of pain coursed through her. Tao circled her anxiously, growling at the shadows, his golden mane bristling. Something was wrong. The hours dragged on, but Mara's cub had not yet arrived. Her breathing became erratic, and Jabari clenched his fists. If she didn't deliver soon, she could die. Amara knew they had no choice. They had to intervene. Moving cautiously in their jeep, they approached the lions, the vehicle's headlights illuminating the struggling lioness. Tao turned sharply, his amber eyes locking onto them, his muscles tense with suspicion. He let out a deep growl, warning them to stay back. But then, something remarkable happened. As if sensing their intent, Tao did not attack. He stepped aside, watching Amara and Jabari approach Mara. Time was running out. Would they be able to save her and the unborn cub? Under the moonlit sky of Okavango, the air was thick with tension. Mara lay motionless, her breath shallow, her body trembling with exhaustion. She had been in labor for hours, yet the cub had not arrived. Tao stood over her, his golden mane bristling as he let out a low guttural growl, a warning to anything that dared come close. But the real enemy wasn't a predator lurking in the grass. It was time. From their jeep, Jabari and Amara exchanged urgent glances. They had seen difficult births before, but never one so close, so raw, so dangerously uncertain. Mara was fading fast, and if the cub wasn't born soon, she might not survive. But how could they help without putting themselves in danger? With steady hands and careful movements, Jabari drove closer, his heart pounding. The headlights cast long shadows over the dry grass, illuminating Mara's weary frame, and Tao's piercing amber eyes locked onto them. He growled, stepping forward protectively, but he didn't attack. Instead, he watched them, as if torn between instinct and something deeper. Trust. Amara knew this was their only chance. She grabbed a tranquilizer, not for Mara, but for Tao. If he became aggressive, they'd have no choice but to sedate him. But before she could act, something unexpected happened. Mara let out one final desperate cry, and then a tiny, fragile cub slipped into the world. A moment of silence. Then, a weak but determined squeak filled the night. Mara, despite her exhaustion, lifted her head, nudging the cub with her nose, her eyes glistening with relief. Tao stepped forward, sniffed the cub, and then turned toward Jabari and Amara. His gaze lingered for a moment, a silent acknowledgement. But their journey was far from over. The night air was filled with the soft cries of the newborn cub, its tiny body barely moving in the dim light. Mara, weak but alive, nuzzled her cub, breathing in its scent as if making sure it was real. Tao stood watchful beside her, his massive form a silent shield. But there was something else, something unspoken, hanging in the air, a quiet understanding. From their jeep, Jabari and Amara watched in awe, their hearts pounding with relief. They had witnessed a miracle. Against all odds, Mara had survived, and now a new life had entered the Okavango wilderness. But there was still uncertainty. Would Mara recover? Would the cub, so fragile and new, survive its first days in this unforgiving land? The two rangers remained at a distance, their presence no longer a threat, but a silent reassurance. Tao, though still protective, no longer growled at them. Instead, he looked back, his amber eyes flickering in the darkness, as if acknowledging their role in saving his family. Over the next few days, Jabari and Amara continued to monitor the lion family. Mara slowly regained her strength, and to their delight, the cub, whom they named Neo, meaning gift, grew stronger with each passing hour. They watched as Tao licked his tiny son, as if officially welcoming him into the wild. And then, something remarkable happened. When Jabari and Amara patrolled near the lion's den, Tao didn't roar or charge. He simply stood, watching them with quiet acceptance. The unthinkable had happened. A fragile bond had been formed between man and beast, but their journey was far from over. Would this trust last, or would the wild reclaim its distance? Days turned into weeks, and the Okavango wilderness slowly embraced its newest resident. Neo, the tiny cub, grew stronger, his once feeble cries now replaced by playful squeaks as he explored the den under his mother's watchful gaze. Mara, though still recovering, stood tall once more, her fierce spirit returning, and Tao, the mighty protector, was never far, his golden eyes scanning the horizon for danger. Yet something else had changed. The presence of Jabari and Amara no longer unsettled the lion family. The rangers kept their distance, never overstepping, never interfering, but the lions knew they were there, and for the first time, Tao did not see them as a threat. One evening, as the sun cast its last golden rays across the grasslands, Jabari and Amara patrolled near the river where the lions often rested. As expected, Tao stood tall, his powerful frame outlined against the fading light. But this time, something unexpected happened. Instead of growling or moving away, Tao simply watched. It was a quiet, wordless acknowledgement, an invisible line between humans and nature that had, against all odds, been blurred. The king of the wild was not tamed, nor did he seek human companionship, but there was an understanding, a respect. As Neo pounced clumsily at Tao's tail, oblivious to the history unfolding around him, Jabari whispered, "They know we helped them." Amara nodded, eyes locked on the lion family. "And they trust us." But in the wild, trust is fragile. Would this unspoken bond withstand the challenges ahead? Or would the untamed wilderness remind them that no alliance lasts forever? As the months passed, Neo transformed from a fragile newborn into a bold and curious cub. His tiny paws, once unsteady, now carried him across the golden plains of Okavango with boundless energy. Mara and Tao watched over him, teaching him the ways of the wild, how to stalk, how to listen, how to survive. But they were not the only ones watching. From a distance, Jabari and Amara continued their quiet patrols, ensuring the lion family remained safe. What had started as a desperate rescue had become something much greater, a story of trust between humans and nature. Tao no longer saw the rangers as enemies, but as silent protectors. When their jeep passed by, he would lift his head, acknowledging their presence, then return to his watchful duties. It was a bond built not on ownership, but on respect. One evening, as the sky burned red with the setting sun, Neo did something unexpected. While playing near the river, he spotted Jabari's jeep, and for the first time, curiously padded a few steps toward it. His ears twitched, his small nose sniffed the air, as if sensing the connection between his family and these distant figures. Mara let out a soft growl, not of fear, but of guidance, calling her cub back to her side. Neo hesitated, then turned and bounded back into the tall grass. Jabari exhaled, a slow smile forming. "One day, he'll be a leader," he murmured. Amara nodded. "And maybe, just maybe, he'll remember that not all humans are enemies. But the wild is unpredictable. Would Neo's future be one of peace, or would the laws of nature force him into a different path? Nature has a way of teaching us lessons that no words ever could. The story of Tao, Mara, and Neo is more than just a tale of survival. It's a testament to trust, respect, and the delicate balance between humans and the wild. In a world where we often seek to control nature, this story reminds us that true harmony comes from understanding, not dominance. Jabari and Amara never tried to tame the lions. They simply helped when it mattered most and stepped back when nature needed space. And in return, they earned something rare, a silent, unspoken bond that few will ever experience. As Neo grows, he will forge his own path, shaped by both instinct and the quiet guardians who once stood at a distance. And maybe, just maybe, he will remember that kindness once saved his life. If you found this story inspiring, follow my channel for more amazing wildlife stories.